Hey Scrappers, Tom here from iScrap, and I want to teach you about different grades of copper and where it can come from. We're going to go over 4 different types, and let me just start right at the top. First one is number 1 copper bare bright. This is going to be copper that comes from electrical. This was a heavier grade of copper that moved power from a transformer into a building. Now when this gets stripped, normally there's a jacket on the outside, but by using a knife and of course by either using a wire stripper and always having gloves on, you can clean this and it's nice, bright, and shiny. You can see no tar, no residue, and doesn't look silver. Silver sometimes means that it's lead or tin coated, and that will qualify as a number 2 copper. Next up, number 1 copper tubing. Where this comes from? This is going to come from the plumbing industry. This could also be used to move air. I know that a lot of people use these in shops for air compressors where the air goes throughout and they use it. But number 1 tubing, you can see there's no paint, there's no solder. You got to do the sniff test. You smell inside of it, it's clean, there's no oil. Sometimes the outside can be clean, but the inside you can put your finger in and it could have oil or residue on it. This does not. This is going to be a number 1 tubing, and you see no ends on it, no solder, no plastic, no steel, no brass, number 1 tubing. Next up, from the same industry, from that plumbing industry, you have examples of number 2. Why are these number 2? These have elbows and joints. Yes, this is a copper elbow, but this is tin solder on it. That means it's contaminated. Now, if you're looking to upgrade it, you could kind of hide these ends, and if you cut that piece, this is just water that's on there, that would be a clean piece of number 1 tubing. But if you sold it like this with the soldered end joints on it, it's going to be a number 2 copper. Also, kind of what we did with the number 1, put your finger inside. You see a lot of this dirt coming off. Sometimes the scrapyard will take it as a number 1, but you want to make sure that you look, because if there's heavy contamination inside, it will go as a number 2. Now this is another example of a piece of number 2, but this has a brass end on it. This piece of brass is not going to downgrade this piece of copper unless it was only a small piece. So if you only had this piece right here in my hand with the brass on it, this would go as a brass price because the brass outweighs the copper massively. But what you could do is clean this by cutting away where the solder is, all the way to the other piece, and ultimately you can have a piece of clean number 1 that goes from here all the way to here, and that's a really nice upgrade. Next up is number 3 copper, or roofing copper. Different scrapyards could call it number 3, roofing copper. Also another grade is called light copper. This could be a copper foil like this, which would come from the outside shield of a piece of wire. Sometimes there's a piece of insulation, then there's a wrapping around it, then there's another piece of insulation. It could come from that, or it could be a roofing copper. This could be leaders, gutters, old copper roofs. You see this, generally it's going to be a lower grade. It's a little harder, which means that there's a little less copper inside, and generally it has some things like solder or lead or heavy corrosion or dirt, just from the nature of it being on the roofs, moving water, things like that. So when you look at your 1, 2, and your 3 grades of copper, this should give you a really good idea. Let us know if you want any more videos.
Thanks for checking out this scrap video. For more exclusive scrap video content, please become a YouTube member of our channel today. Thank you, and I'll scrap you later.